So my name is Andrew Goldstein. I live in Redondo Beach, California, and I am in SaaS sales.
Amazing. SaaS software as a service, for those who don't know. Very cool. I started off my career in sales a long, long time ago, so I have much respect for the skills and all the things that you contribute. So maybe though, could you walk us back in time a little bit before you came into Career Amp? So what was happening in your career that made you or prompted you to want to get some help?
Sure. So I was working for a company called RSG Media, and we were acquired by our competitor in mid-September of this year. And I realized that my time with with the company would be limited, albeit I was offered my job, but I figured I had till the end of the year. Unfortunately, I was let go at the end of October. So
Hmm.
I began the work. I think my first career amp was September 17th or 16th. So I got ahead of it. I knew I was something would happen. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sorry that writing was on the wall, but I'm really glad our paths crossed because I'm so stoked about your new gig. I was doing the math before we hopped on this call, and it looks like from the time that you joined to the time that you got an offer was like the 9 to 10 week mark. Was that about right on your
yeah,
record?
yeah, that's about right.
So cool. That's great. Okay, cool. So you saw the writing on the wall. You're like, I need to jump into action mode. As you were looking for help, what was important to you about finding a partner as you were looking at maybe different options?
I think like a couple of things. I think just re-looking at my career and what I was doing, I had taken some hits over the last year. Getting being the victim of another reorg the
Mm,
previous November. So it was just just kind of the support and a different way of looking at things and really trying something different because what I was doing wasn't working. So I
mhm.
think when something's not working, you have to try something different. And this was different, and it was just. And I saw the ad on Instagram. I'm not gonna lie, and I thought it was like it hit me at the right time. It was like sounded so supportive and everything. So I discussed it with the boss, my wife, and once the acquisition was made public, I knew I needed to do something.
Yeah, yeah. And I know when your back's against the wall, kind of like you try to look for things where there's proof in the pudding that it can work, and that applies not just in this scenario, but in lots of different scenarios in life. So I completely understand. All right, so you hopped inside, which we're again glad you did. And if you could remember back maybe to the first couple of weeks that you were in Career Amp, what was like an immediate aha moment or like first win that you noticed kind of right off the bat?
I just think, as I mentioned, I'd taken some hits personally with these, being let go. And it just like I had kind of lost confidence. And just looking at my career and, that those things are still with me and I can still do those things. I
Mhm.
just forgot that, and it was just, sorry, I'm getting emotional, but it was transformational actually. Just,
Mm.
and it was interesting when I took that test that you take at the beginning. I was like it was completely different from what I thought, and just I don't know, it just changed the way I approach things. And I think the favorite thing that I got out of it was the skills that I've learned that I can take with me through the rest of my life. So that was really good.
Well, you just gave me chills, Andrew, and I'm so pumped and glad and proud that you through that process were able to just see how much awesome you are, and
Thanks.
and to be reminded of that because we don't get reminded all the time, especially if it's been a while since we've left certain roles. And you're right, the diagnostics really help with that, and hopefully also getting feedback from your peers in milestone 1, 2 was confirmatory. And look where it got you, right? Because
Yeah.
that confidence like bleeds into the way that you interview. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, absolutely. But also I'd say, the aside from getting the job, I think,
yeah,
and getting my confidence back, it's like the things that you learn, like the source stories and the doing the side door calls, it helps you remember like and having just good conversations that like these are the things that I can do or the knowledge that I have. And I
yeah.
made some really good connections and through that. And my wife was like, well, there's no offer. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's like it gives me, I got leads from a lot of them on
Mhm.
roles and just kind of just getting my mojo back was
Yes.
really, I lost like 70% of my income when I got let go in last November.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
fortunately, I had a job, but it wasn't nearly as it wasn't as lucrative as the other one. But
Hmm.
and I also realized like what I want in a role and what I want in the company that I want to work for. So those are other things that I realized.
Oh, so glad. So glad. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Two more questions here. One is, what would you consider your biggest win, or would you consider the biggest win the stuff that you learned along the way in the confidence, or anything else that you would mention?
I would say the biggest win aside from my job is just kind of the skills and the confidence that got me back to being able to. I had some of the best interviews I've ever had. The interview that I had with the HR person at Cineverse, is the company I work for, was probably one of the best interviews I've ever had. And I
Very cool.
had another interview with this guy, head of sales, like, and that was the one where the base salary wasn't what it needed to be, but I had such a like it was a great interview, and if they could have made matched my offer, I probably would have taken that role. But I just like some of these interviews I had were great, and the prep that I had, I was ready. And doing that, looking at the everything you teach about how to get, figure out what questions they might ask. I mean, one of the interview, I think the interview for Cineverse with the head of sales, he asked me a question, and it was a question that I had written down from looking at you say you go through the what you can expect to do, and and things like, and I had that question. I'm like, that's so funny you asked that. I actually figured that was the question you were going to ask.
There you go. I love it. That hypothesizing comes in handy.
It sure does.
That's so great. I'm so glad to hear that. All right, Andrew, last question here, which is if someone's watching our conversation and perhaps they're on the fence on whether or not they want to join Career Amp, what would you tell them or what would you want them to hear?
I would say it is one of the best investments someone can make in themselves, and you can never go wrong with investing in yourself.
100%. That's it. That's
How's
beautiful.
that for a
Thank you.
testimonial?
That's great, Andrew. I really appreciate it. Anything else you wanted to add before we sign off?
No, I just think, the program's great. I recommended it, like I said, to two people. I will always recommend it. And, I think it's done wonders for me. And I think it's great what you do. So I'm glad I found you, to be
I'm glad
honest
we
with you.
found you. Well, we found each other.